Hello everyone, and welcome to a new video, where today we will talk about one of the most unsettling and surprising elements that recent horror and science fiction cinema has brought us: the hollow men who appear in the Apple Plus movie, The Gorge. This film, directed by the talented master of modern horror, Scott Derrickson, combines action, suspense, romance, and a touch of dark philosophy. Today we will dive deep into what these hollow men really are, where they came from, how they became one of the main threats to our protagonists, and why they are so terrifying. The movie The Gorge blends multiple genres, from body horror and survival in hostile environments to intense war action and even an unexpected romance. In the story, we meet two snipers from different nationalities. On one side, there's Levi, a former U.S. Marine with an impeccable military record, though he struggles with passing psychological evaluations. On the other side, we have Drasa, a Lithuanian sniper with a career full of secrets and exceptional talent. Despite their differences, both are recruited by a mysterious organization known as Dark Lake, which assigns them a vague mission and sends them to an unknown destination. Once they arrive, they receive precise instructions about their mission. For an entire year, they must remain stationed in a watchtower at the edge of a colossal abyss covered in thick fog, known as the Gorge. They are not allowed to communicate with the outside world, except for brief routine reports every 30 days. As if that weren't enough, they are also forbidden from interacting with the other snipers stationed in the opposite tower across the canyon. However, their primary objective is clear: to watch over and eliminate anything that emerges from the depths of the abyss. Very soon, both of them realize that this place is a far more sinister military secret than they ever imagined. They are vaguely informed that this abyss could quite literally be a gateway to hell, a natural portal connecting to indescribable horrors that must never reach the surface. As days and weeks go by, both snipers begin breaking the rules and communicating with each other from a distance, using rifles, binoculars, and even clever tricks to get closer. What starts as mere curiosity soon develops into a bond that motivates them to survive and uncover what the hell is really lurking inside that monster-infested abyss. Indeed, as time passes, we see that the creatures that emerge, known as the Hollow Men, represent a mutant and extremely dangerous form of life. This movie shows us not only tree-like men or humanoid beings, but also giant insects, carnivorous plants, spiders with human skulls, and a terrifying superorganism that seems to be the heart of all the horror. But to understand how the Hollow Men came to be, we need to travel back in time to World War II and uncover how military experiments with chemical and biological weapons led to this abomination. One of the most interesting points that the movie gradually reveals is that the idea of a portal or a gateway to hell is actually both a metaphor and a cover-up. As the story unfolds, it is explained that after World War II, a secret laboratory was built deep within this canyon with the participation of the United States, the Soviet Union, and Great Britain. The purpose? To develop a chemical weapon or a biological agent that could rival or even surpass nuclear bombs in the event of a Third World War. This new weapon wouldn't rely on radiation to destroy armies, but instead on genetic manipulation. To achieve this, scientists established a small laboratory town deep within the abyss, under the pretense that if something went wrong, the geography and total isolation of the location would prevent the catastrophe from spreading to the rest of the world. And indeed, something went terribly wrong. A massive earthquake shattered the containment units, releasing the mutagenic agent into the air, water, and soil. As expected, every form of life in the area became contaminated, including humans, animals, insects, and plants. Even the scientists themselves began to undergo brutal mutations, fusing genetically with any other life forms. Over time, 2,400 soldiers, American, British, and Soviet, were sent in to supposedly eliminate whatever was inside. However, none of them ever returned. It was then decided that the only option was to turn the place into a prison for the creatures, installing watchtowers and an extensive defense system to prevent the abominations from escaping the abyss. The mission was kept in absolute secrecy. Successive governments and presidents never knew about the place, and control was handed over to a hidden organization called Dark Lake. This group took charge of Operation Gorge, hoping to find military applications for the mutagen samples, and perhaps even create super soldiers. The results of that spill and decades of mutation are precisely the Hollow Men and the other monsters that emerge from the abyss. In other words, they are not demons, but the horrors they embody are very real and could be compared to something worthy of hell. Although in the movie they are referred to as Hollow Men, they are not simply mutated zombies. These are beings that were once human, but whose genetic structure has been replaced, reconfigured, and merged with other organisms infected by the powerful chemical agent. Many of them retain vaguely human features: 2 legs, arms, a torso, and even remnants of military uniforms from the 1940s or later decades. Their bodies display plant-like growth such as roots and trunks emerging from their skin, creating a humanoid yet vegetal appearance. These creatures may have rotting flesh, areas covered in an insect-like exoskeleton, scales, or reddish crusts, depending on which plant or animal they fused with. Some, further along in their mutation, develop extra or deformed limbs, such as tentacles or elongated arms with claws. The behavior of the Hollow Men is characterized by their violent and savage nature, attacking anyone who comes near. Additionally, they do not usually act alone, but instead move in groups or packs, riding horses that have also been infected, and like them, show mutant features. This group organization suggests that they still retain some level of strategic behavior, making them even more dangerous. On the other hand, although their appearance makes them seem like mindless monsters, they retain traces of combat tactics, possibly latent memories of their military training before their mutation. Because of this, in some cases, they are seen using rudimentary weapons such as swords, spears, or sharpened branches. Similarly, while it is not confirmed whether they need defeat in a conventional way, the movie suggests that their attacks may be driven both by territorial instinct and by a desperate need to escape the abyss. The term Hollow Men originates from the poem by T.S. Eliot, titled The Hollow Men, which describes men trapped between life and death, lost in an existential limbo after war. In this context, the first soldier who established the watchtower, Bradford Shaw, adopted this name to refer to the creatures, believing it perfectly fit their nature, beings that have lost all humanity and now wander as mere empty shells. The mutagen present in the Gorge operates at a genetic level, triggering a process of horizontal gene transfer that combines human DNA with that of plants, insects, and other animals in the environment. As a result, those infected undergo an irreversible transformation, losing their higher intelligence within days. Gradually, they fall into a semi-conscious state, driven solely by primitive instincts of aggression and survival. Despite this, it remains uncertain whether all exposed humans eventually turn into Hollow Men, or if there are different variants. The movie introduces other creatures, such as mutant trees and the terrifying skull spiders, suggesting that the biological contamination of the abyss can produce multiple types of aberrations, depending on the organism affected. For this reason, the horror of the Gorge is not limited to human transformation. The movie emphasizes that the entire ecosystem in this area has been contaminated by the chemical, meaning that every form of life can evolve into something grotesque and terrifying. Throughout the story, various mutated creatures appear, each with its own unique and horrifying characteristics. One of the first monsters that attacks Levi when he falls into the abyss is a horrific creature with the appearance of a massive centipede. The most disturbing thing about this creature is its head, which appears to be a human skull fused with insect-like features, giving it an even more creepy appearance. This creature hides in the treetops or beneath the dense vegetation covering the ground, waiting patiently to attack when it senses prey. Though it is resilient and ferocious, it is not invulnerable, as Levi manages to drive it away by shooting it multiple times. In certain scenes, the protagonists encounter trees that have undergone terrifying mutations. These trees appear to be fused with human torsos, their rib cages opening and closing like jaws. Their branches and mutated roots move actively, attempting to grab any living creature that comes too close, seemingly with the intent to consume or assimilate them into the tree's biomass. Some of these trees have human faces embedded in their bark, their expressions frozen in agony and suffering. This horrifying image suggests that those fused with the abyss's flora may still retain some level of consciousness, trapped within their vegetative prison. Inside an abandoned church, Levi and Drasa encounter yet another abomination, a colony of giant spiders. These creatures possess a thick, durable exoskeleton and have a disturbing appearance resembling human skulls. Whether their bodies naturally take this shape or they repurpose real skulls as protective shells, much like hermit crabs, remains a chilling mystery. The hollow spiders are not only large and terrifying, but they also exhibit extremely aggressive and coordinated behavior. They move in packs, capable of surrounding their prey within seconds, attacking with quick leaps and venomous bites. Their lethal venom appears to have paralyzing properties, making them an even greater threat. Their origin likely stems from a fusion of insects with human DNA, and possibly other animals, which would explain their massive size and ferocity. Deep within the underground laboratories located at the ground zero of the catastrophe, there exists an entity even more terrifying. It is a massive organism composed of dozens, or perhaps hundreds, of human bodies fused together into a web of yellowish, membranous roots. This monstrous being constantly pulsates, appearing to be alive in an unnatural way. The creature is formed by organic tentacles and membranous pods that attempt to absorb or assimilate any living being that comes too close. The most disturbing aspect is that the faces and torsos of those fused within the mass can still move and breathe, as if they were trapped in a state of perpetual suffering, unable to die or regain their individuality. One of the most crucial points in this story is the apparent contradiction in how the threat of the abyss is handled. While it is constantly emphasized that this gate to hell must remain sealed and guarded, no effort has ever been made to completely destroy it. This leads to an inevitable question: why not simply bomb the canyon with a nuclear weapon and eliminate the threat once and for all? The answer is unsettling and reveals an even darker truth. The private organization Dark Lake, the entity that recruited Levi and Drasa, never truly intended to eradicate the Hollow Men. Instead of eliminating them, they used specialized drones to collect samples of the mutagen and the creature's DNA for a sinister purpose: to develop super soldiers and advance new biological engineering experiments. This hidden objective explains the existence of a contingency protocol known as Protocol Stray Dog. According to this plan, if the abyss were ever exposed to the public, for example, if the cloaking antennas that conceal the zone were destroyed, a nuclear device would immediately be activated as a containment measure. In other words, if the existence of the anomaly is ever revealed, or if the situation spirals out of control, Dark Lake would rather erase all evidence than allow the truth to come to light. As the movie progresses, Levi and Drasa uncover the harsh reality when they find Dark Lake's classified files inside the abandoned laboratories. At that moment, they realize that not only were they deceived, but, like the snipers before them, they are completely expendable to the organization. Eventually, they take matters into their own hands, deciding to activate the nuclear bomb, destroying the facilities, the superorganism, and any chance of Dark Lake continuing to exploit the mutagen. In the end, what initially seemed like a defense mission to protect the world from an inhuman threat is revealed to be a cruel manipulation, where the true enemy is not only what lurks in the abyss, but also those seeking to exploit it. However, the film's closing scene hints that Dark Lake may have already secured copies of the data and stored samples elsewhere, leaving the door open for a possible sequel or a future where these experiments may resurface in another location. One of the most unique aspects of the Gorge is the way it manages to blend a love story within an environment that is completely hostile and desolate. Despite the setting being dominated by horror and extreme survival, the relationship between Levi and Drasa develops naturally and gradually. Their connection grows through long-distance conversations, furtive glances, and exchanges of written messages on scraps of paper and improvised signs. In this sense, the romance is not just filler within the story. Instead, it serves as the true heart of the plot, bringing a human touch to a world of terror. Throughout the film, we see how both characters, isolated from the world and with no family ties to hold on to, find in each other a reason to keep going. This relationship not only gives them a purpose in such a cruel environment, but also challenges the mission imposed upon them, as their bond defies the strict rule prohibiting interaction. At this point, the film emphasizes the themes of rebellion and loneliness they both experience, making it clear that in extreme circumstances, the need for human connection prevails over any protocol. Furthermore, this emotional bond is not just an act of resistance, but also becomes the driving force that compels them to descend into the abyss and face the creatures. In this way, the film shows that empathy and love can emerge even in the darkest places, transforming despair into a reason to fight. Beyond its romantic elements, The Gorge incorporates a strong philosophical and existentialist component, particularly through the inclusion of T.S. Eliot's poem, The Hollow Men. This element adds a layer of reflection on various themes, such as the fragility of human existence, evidenced by the transformation of soldiers into empty husks, the meaninglessness of war and military experiments, which turn people into mindless abominations, the idea that the true hell is not a metaphysical place, but one created by humanity itself through its own weapons and destructive acts. In this context, the Hollow Men cease to be mere monsters and instead become a symbol of extreme dehumanization, a reminder of how, in their pursuit of military supremacy, humans can completely erase their own humanity. One of the most chilling aspects of The Gorge is the design of the Hollow Men and the other creatures born from the chemical agent. Instead of relying on the classic zombies, aliens, or demons, the film embraces a fusion of human, plant, and insectoid elements. This combination is disturbing and grotesque, yet at the same time, highly captivating for fans of body horror and science fiction. Furthermore, the variety of monsters presented is truly fascinating. Rather than being just a single abomination repeated in different forms, the film introduces an entire ecosystem of horrors. This diversity enriches the world of the movie, offering a range of unpredictable threats and preventing the story from becoming monotonous. Beyond the visual horror, the narrative backstory is another of the film's greatest strengths. The blend of historical realism and scientific speculation is incredibly convincing. The idea that the mutagenic experiment has its roots in World War II and was developed in secret laboratories adds a sense of believability to the plot, making the entire concept feel more credible. However, the most unsettling aspect is not just the origin of the threat, but rather the attitude of the Dark Lake organization, which doesn't seek to eradicate the abyss, but to exploit it. Their intention to collect samples of the mutagen to create super soldiers echoes the horrors of human experimentation during wartime. This unrestrained ambition for power, regardless of the consequences, serves as a reflection of human greed, adding a layer of social critique to the story. It's true that not all viewers will enjoy the combination of elements that The Gorge offers. The mix of body horror, military action, romance, and personal drama may feel overwhelming for those who prefer more straightforward narratives. However, it is precisely this narrative boldness that makes the film stand out within the horror and science fiction genres. Instead of following a conventional formula, the movie dares to push the boundaries of what these types of stories can offer. For me, this willingness to innovate is what makes it so special and sets it apart from other, more predictable productions. Personally, I still think the aesthetic of these creatures is one of the most original elements of the film. Additionally, I truly appreciate the use of practical effects in several scenes, blended seamlessly with digital effects to create something that looks organic and terrifying. To wrap things up, let me know if you enjoyed this analysis. I invite you to leave a like and share this video with anyone you think might be interested in this topic. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed my video, I'd love to recommend another one for you to watch.